time, sports figure stuff out. Leagues figure stuff out, right? But it takes a while. I always joke, in the late 90s, airlines were still allowing some smoking on planes. I mean, it's, generally you think corporations are pretty smart, but from time to time you look at these leagues and you're like, that's a dumb rule. Why are they doing that? The NFL right now has one thing that I think is absolutely moronic. The NFL 4-game preseason. Last night, the 49ers had key injuries to 6 players. One of them, Solomon Thomas, a very promising defensive lineman, got a concussion. Malcolm Smith, a hamstring. You had a very good tight end, George Kittle. He's a second-year tight end, had a shoulder injury. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Okay, let me ask you. College football has 19-year-olds who are often straight out of high school. The NCAA limits how much you can practice. There are no joint practices with other schools. There's no exhibition games. And you'll watch Alabama, Ohio State, Washington, Stanford first game. You're like, oh, they're good. The NFL's got veterans. 60, 70% of the locker room, 27-year-old, 28-year-old, 29. They have OTAs. They have 30 days of camp. They have joint practices. You have better coaching that can delineate great, good, average talent. And they need 4 games? What? Greed. It's all it is. It's ridiculous. You're jumping over a $20 bill in the NFL to get to a 5. You're getting players hurt. That's why I said if I run the CBA for the players, I'm DeMaurice Smith. After 2 years in the league, no more preseason games. You never have to play in one. Okay, and I would say this. I would have one preseason game. And I'll tell you why. College football is not well run. I mean, the Big Ten plays this many in-conference games. The SEC plays only this many in-conference games. The schedules are completely uneven. You can look at Washington's schedule and go, what? Then you look at Auburn's schedule and you're like, what the hell's that? College football's been given Labor Day forever, and they can't get it right. They've got 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to steal everybody's thunder. And they give us maybe 2 good games. 120 Division I programs this year. They give us Auburn and Washington. That's it. And then a bunch of stuff I can nap through. NFL, move your season up, starting Labor Day, week before I have a preseason game. Listen, you can't tell me it takes Sean Payton that Sean Payton can't have 2 OTAs, a rookie camp, a fall camp, 33 practices, joint scrimmages, 1 preseason games where veterans don't play, and Sean Payton can't go, I think that number 3 tight end is better than that number 4 tight end. He can't do that. Now, it's different if you and me watch college football, and then I've made mistakes. I'm like, I think this guy will be really, really average, and he's really, really good in the pros. But you and I don't get OTA video. You and I don't watch the camp video. You and I don't get practice video. You and I aren't in a room for 16 hours a day looking at all the video and the workout. Coaches know very early. You ever watch American Idol? I have no musical talent. None. Now, Joy at one point was a muralist, so she has artistic gifts.
I used to sing in church growing up.
You're artistically gifted. I don't have any of it. I'm a radio guy. Blah, blah, blah,
I
blah.
had puberty and that went away.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I used to watch American Idol.
Right.
Okay, I have no talent, no gifts in music. You could spot about twice a season, that's a star. And you could spot it in 30 seconds max. Then you could spot a dozen times. There's somebody who could, work in a lounge, do a commercial. That's a nice singing voice, but not a star. And then you could see a bunch of people whose grandma kept telling them, you're Whitney Houston. They had no talent. And you could tell quickly. And I can honestly say I watched American Idol a lot for about 5 years. And then I got tired of it. I don't think I ever disagreed with Simon Cowell, and Simon was the most accurate. I almost never, I can't think of any time I did. You can spot talent, physical talent, musical talent. I tell a story all the time. I went into a gym in Hartford, Connecticut. This was like 7, 8 years ago. My daughter was like 10 years old. She was playing some, AAU stuff. I walked into a gym of 500 girls in 12 games, and I sat next to these scouts. And I looked over to court, and there was this little tiny girl, and I'm like, who's that? 2 minutes in, they're like, oh, yeah, she's the next star. It was 7th grade girls basketball. She was tiny, and I'm like, God, she's got great handles for it. They're like, oh, yeah, coach is already looking at her. 10 seconds, NFL coaches, if you can't, through joint practices, rookie camps, multiple OTAs, fall camp, 33 days of practice, and then one exhibition game, you can't say, this corner is better than that corner. I'm not even mentioning all the college tape you have and all the interviews you've done and the combine and the personal workouts. There's like 9 layers before you get to an exhibition game. And you can't tell the difference? Come on, it's not that tough. I'm not talking about med school where you need 8 years to qualify for something. We're talking about the entertainment business. Music, right? I've said this before. I can open up, I'm not a great writer. I can open up, you give me 5 columnists. 5 columnists. I can read all their columns and go, that's the best writer, that's the worst writer. Then you and I can argue, give me a second column to tell who's second, third, fourth. But I can tell good and bad really quick. It's actually easier to see bad than good, great can be hard. You can argue good to great. Bad's bad and it's easy. Average is average and it's easy. You and I can argue over very good and great. You can argue over that. But by the way, both very good and great would make your roster. You're not arguing over awful, you spot him early. Average, he's out of camp. This stuff is, I'm watching that game last night. Kyle Shanahan wanted that game to end.
I bet if you got most coaches in a room, they would tell you they don't need this many preseason games or want this many preseason games. It's partly we've done it this way for so long, why change it? And partly because they make money on preseason games.
Yeah, that last part, so you can spot musical talent as well.
Well, sure.